क्या करे मोबाइल, अरे कंटेम्प्ट ऑफ कोर्ट हो जाएगी, रिकॉर्डिंग मत करो।
Yes, sir.
नीचे want to do a recording of this?
Everybody's just taking a regular lecture recording.
No, they are anyway recording it.
The copyright, huh? I'm going to charge you all. Gira sir? Gira sir. Tell Mr. Gira there's going to be, if you're going to record everything, there's a cost involved. We are lawyers. You start?
Yeah.
Good evening, good afternoon, good evening everyone. My friend Mr. Patil and I are here to share with you certain thoughts on the talk tomorrow. You want to start or should
The floor is yours.
you have listened first? You can take your notes wherever, you can take your notes also, that's your choice. You know, we have a long list of cases. So the problem with some of these cases has been that some of them have been overruled partly or fully over a period of time. So the four which we were a little concerned about, we have deleted from the list. Please make a note, these are deleted, this is most important. I'll give you the names. We will not, although Nagaraj is not completely overruled, partly it's been touched. So Nagaraj, Aruna Shanbag, Sangeet and Khadak Singh we will not be using this year. I hope that makes some of you happy.
Yes, sir.
I'll repeat. Nagaraj, Aruna Shanbag, Sangeet and Khadak Singh, these four will not be part of the curriculum, though they are mentioned in the list, so you need not look at them. Having said that, Nagaraj is not being completely overruled, Aruna Shanbag is partly accepted, Sangeet also partly, and Khadak Singh, but we felt that these we could, because there has been developments in the law thereafter which are not part of the curriculum, and therefore it would perhaps not be appropriate to have. Now let's look at the second part. The second part which you need to consider is that we have a long list of cases, and let me tell you what, just to share, I don't need to tell you that you will need to look at the question paper. It is always desirable to spend 5 or 10 minutes on the question paper. It's a 3-hour paper, so for 5 questions out of 8, it's about 36 minutes per question. Let's say 30 minutes per question. You have time to examine, review, refresh. You have that time. Some questions are likely to be longer because of the nature of the query. Some are going to be shorter. You'll have to find your own balance. What does the examiner look for? The examiners, at least in this year, are not going to be looking for a regurgitation. You want me to spell that for you? Of the facts of the case. We don't want you to repeat the judgment. We want you to analyze the questions and answers. An analysis is something which, because you are all seeking to be advocates on record, as senior counsels, it's very easy, whatever you feed us, we speak, but you are the people who have to apply your minds. So since you are the ones who have to apply your minds so that you can feed us something sensible, so that we can say something sensible for a change, it is very important that you display analysis and understanding of the issues which are sought in the question. A question may be clear, or a question may look for things, it may not be as apparent, so please study the question. That's, I mean, I think we school mein bhi to yahi kehte the. We left school a long time ago. You will have to write out your answers. Next year, hopefully, we just talked about it, next year, hopefully we will introduce typing also as an option if we can, but this year you all have to write out your answers, you don't have an option. Please be kind, Mr. Patil and I have been examiners in different years. Please try and endeavor that we can read your answers. If we can't read your answers, we can't mark you. And it's not that we will get angry or upset and take it out on you, but if we can't get your answer right, you may end up losing mark because the essence of your answer is not clear. Now, my friend Mr. Patil's handwriting is better than mine, which you can imagine what mine is like. So I am sympathetic to people with all handwriting, as is he. But at the same time, if we don't comprehend, if you are going to scribble on pages, it's not going to make sense and it's not going to earn you brownie points. Now the paper that we are dealing with is leading cases. So leading cases, as I said again at the beginning, means not just the title of the case, not just the name of the case, but an analysis. A lot of these cases, and I'm going to just run through some random thoughts on these cases, have more than one opinion. So there is an interplay of opinion. So you will have, for example, I'll give you an example. Let's take TMA Pi. Has anybody read TMA Pi? Has anybody read Kesavananda Bharati? Whoever reads Kesavananda Bharati, I will give them a prize, but separately. It's not part of the curriculum. You are probably one amongst the 5 or 7 lawyers in this court who's read it, but that's another story. Coming back, so TMA Pi, by way of example, TMA Pi is how many judges? 11. Now, out of the 11 judges, they had a number of questions, right? Do they answer all of them? So they don't answer all of them. But then there is a majority view, then there are dissents, there are some supplementing views. So if a question comes in and around, by way of example, Pi, or let's say Indira Sami, so you can't just say this is the majority view and leave it. As an examiner, we will be looking at your understanding of the interplay of the different views, and you're going to be making us work very hard on checking the papers. We've read the judgments once, we made our notes, we'll have to read the judgments once more. So please be kind to us, display that level of commitment. I'm loud enough, don't worry. As for the other rooms,
Yes.
can't help it. They'll have to make holes in the wall, we'll manage that. So this is it. So please understand that. So let's look at TMA Pi for a minute. Now just by way of illustration, we've got 2 cases of that lot. Pi and Inamdar. Islamic Academy is not mentioned, but Islamic Academy was relevant. But Pi and Inamdar are the 2 cases. Now Pi, there are writ petitions that were filed, transferred cases, and what was the issue? Because one of the things you'll have to tell us is, what was the issue? Some of these cases will be fact-based cases, some of these will be issue-based cases. So you have to specify the questions that arose before the court. We don't necessarily want a verbatim copy of what the court has said. That would be mugging up and that may not be able to be accurately reproduced. But an essence of what arose before the court, because in some cases you will see there are many questions raised, but the court says, alright, there are 11 questions, according to us 5 or 6 issues arise, and we will deal with these 5 issues. Please try and paraphrase those issues in your own language. So as I said, Pi, you have a number of writ petitions which come up about institutions aided, unaided, established by minorities, non-minorities to establish and administer educational institutions. Then you have Islamic Academy, which gets placed before 5 judges. The question is whether St. Stephen's College. Now St. Stephen's is very important. How many judges? Lots of them. St. Stephen's is? 5. St. Stephen's was doubted and hence it gets placed before 7. Again in this case, the way the case moves is the questions get recast on 6 February 97 because there's the 42nd amendment which has come in and education is placed in entry 25, list 3 of the 7th schedule. Again the questions, 11 questions are reframed on 10th of April and 3rd of April. Now I don't expect you necessarily to remember the dates, but the fact is I'm just telling you, I made my notes so I can tell you. I hope you will not have the benefit of your notes during the examination. Please don't do that. Then the issue is whether Unni Krishna is valid law. And after that, there are to put it simply, there are the questions that are raised about minorities, professional education coming under Article 30, whether the state government or the university can regulate aided or unaided institutions and minority educational institutions, the minorities' right to establish and administer educational institutions of their choice, minorities' right to admission subject to receipt of state aid, statutory provisions regulating the facets of administration like control over educational agencies, control over governing bodies, whether St. Stephen's is correct, if not, what, Unni Krishnan, what happened with Unni Krishnan, does anybody know? Sorry? Right. I think it was essentially overruled, but question 9, have a look at that. The point I am trying to say is that there are a number of questions that arise, and then the majority view, the court doesn't answer question 2, 3A, 6A, 6B, 7. There's Justice Kirpal's majority, Patnaik, Rajendra Babu, Balakrishnan, Venkat Reddy and Pasayat are part of the majority view. They answer the questions, Justice Khare concurs with Chief Justice Kirpal but adds his view on questions 1, conflict between 29(2) and 31 and certain ancillary issues, and Justice Qadri dissents. Similarly, Justice Rumapal partly dissents, and Justice Varyava, writing for himself, and Justice Vahan also dissent, and they have their own views. Now, TMA Pai comes up before consideration before 2 judges in PA Inamdar. I must point out, in your list, the judgment of Inamdar is only 2004-8 SCC 139. Is that right?
Yes.
The actual decision that came, which finally gets answered, is 2005-6 SCC 537. It's not part of your curriculum, and we are told that because it's not notified, we can't go that far, but that is the ultimate culmination. So I tell you what, the law is developed even beyond these judgments. If you want an answer to be special, if you want an answer to be good, you will go till these limited cases. But if you want an answer to be special and get that extra mark, which is like a bonus to show exceptional understanding of the law, then you may want to refer to how the law is developed.
Modern.
As my friend says, the modern developments of the law. So again, as I've said, we are limited to 2004-8 SCC 139, not the 2005 decision. Then the next issue will be, and I've just divided these into categories, is the 9th schedule laws, and this is Koilo's case. Is that how you pronounce it? I think so. I'm a Punjabi, so you'll understand. I'm a little handicapped with the use of the English language. Now, Koilo's case talked about 9 judges bench decision, Article 368, Article 31B, and the laws included in the 9th schedule. It's a very important decision, and you may want to see, in the context of all these cases, please also display, if you can, an understanding of the constitutional or statutory provisions which are the subject matter of these cases. It's not enough to say that Article 31B was in question, but please give us, if not the language, the essence of Article 31B. What was the issue? That relates to the issue in question. Otherwise, as an examiner, the answer is incomplete. Not that scary, I thought. There's so much silence. No smiles. Okay. Now, here again, now these are, if this is a very crucial decision. It's an important matter because it looks at the nature and character of protection provided by Article 31B to the laws added to the 9th schedule by amendment after 24th April 1973, being the date on which Keshwanand Bharti was pronounced. So therefore, any understanding of this judgment or a question on this judgment will have to be premised, hopefully, on an understanding of Keshwanand Bharti's basic principles. Something, they call it basic structure, so basic principles. But as I said, it's not part of your curriculum. when we set Keshavanand Bharti, then we will put only one question and one case in your examination, not more than that. We leave it. But right now it's not part. But please try and draw and add to the quality of your answer, the richness of your answer. You do it in court all the time, so surely you can do it in examination. There's a unanimous verdict here, so this makes your life a little simpler. It's Chief Justice Sabharwal. He deals comprehensive decision, deals with issues of Article 32, common law, separation of powers, basic structure, 31B, judicial review in the context of 9th schedule, and the decision is really that even 9th schedule statutes can be invalidated and judicial review is not stopped completely, except that the grounds may be relatively limited. But that's something which you will have to examine and read. I am not here to read the decision with you. That is something we leave to you. Indira Sahni, on reservation we have two cases. We have on reservation Indira Sahni and Ashok Kumar Thakur. Both very crucial cases. Indira Sahni came out of, there was a government in this country of a gentleman called Mr. V.P. Singh, who was then Prime Minister of India. He looked at the issue of reservation in the past. He believed that though there had been various commissions of inquiry, including the Mandal Commission, reservation was not something which had been done as it ought to have been done. He then brings out two government orders, an order of 1990 and an order of 1991. 13th August 19 and 25th September 1991. These two orders give a reservation to SEBC, socially and economically backward classes and services, 27%, 10% in civil posts, and then there was that concept of creamy layer. There are protests on the streets of India. Delhi University achieves a shutdown. There are issues, the matter reaches this honorable court. An advocate will record Ms. Indira Sahni. If you want more details on this judgment, please ask Ms. Sahni. She would have definitely read the judgment. You should go to her for lessons on this one. Indira Sahni ji filed a petition. There were other petitions filed. The matter came up. Legal validity of the old decision in 1964 SCR Devdasan's case was under consideration, as also the effect of Articles 335, 38, 2, 46 and Article 40, Article 16. And the question was on the surface question was on the validity of these two aims. But there was a deeper question also. So you have a majority view by Justice B.P. Jeevan Reddy for himself and three other honorable judges. Then you have Justice Pandian, who supports that in a concurring view. Justice Sawant gives his own reasons. Justice Thoman, Kuldeep Singh, Justice Sahai give their minority views and hold that these two OMs are unenforceable, and they've taken a view. There are a number of issues that arose. In this case also, there were as many as 14 questions and sub-questions within those which arose and were sought to be answered on the issue of positive action, positive discrimination, desirability, how it should be given effect to, the legality of it, and they also dealt with a historical understanding of reservations. Recently, my young son had to write a paper on the effect of reservation. He's studying economics. So one of the decisions I found very useful was I just marked out paragraphs of his judgment and sent him for part of his paper. It's a very well written decision. So it's really a decision which looks at the social issues as well as legal issues. Of course, we're examining on the legal issues. My friend has a lot more knowledge. I am neither a sociologist nor an economics person who understands economics, but having said that, we're looking at the legal issues which you need to deal with, and also 50%. What is 50%? Not the marks you want to get. 50% reservation. Ashok Kumar Thakur. Reservation and admission on central educational institutions. Detailed decision. 4 opinions. Justice Balakrishnan, Justice Prasad writing for himself, Justice Thakur, Ravindra and Justice Bhandari for himself. And the whole issue was they hold the 93rd Amendment to the Constitution to be valid, except for Justice Bhandari. and Act 5 of 2007, that's the Reservation Act of 2007, they hold that to be valid, and it's clarified to exclude what is called the creamy layer. That's not the creamy layer in your coffee in the morning, but the creamy layer is understood in Ashok Kumar Thakur's case. And you see a variety of views on the rationale and logic of reservation, which is the constitutionally recognized principle. And again, there is reference to the basic structure, because again it's being tested on that concept, amongst other concepts. Article 14 and so on and so forth. Article 91G. Okay. So this is, I'm going to now jump a little from reservation to arbitration law. In 1996, we brought in the Arbitration and Conciliation Act, right?
Yes.
I taught that paper in 1997 in the Delhi University. That time it was much easier for me to give a talk because there was no case law. There were barely about 4 or 5 cases on Section 9. Even that was very interesting because there was no case law. But now we are having to speak about that. Patel Engineering of 2005-8 SCC, very important decision, SBP versus Patel Engineering. Why is it important? One of the major issues is the scope of Section 11. The 3-judge bench in Konkan Railway 2000, approved by the Constitution bench in Konkan Railway 2002, took the view that it's purely an administrative function under Section 11, neither judicial nor quasi-judicial, and the Chief Justice or his nominee performing cannot decide any contentious issues between the parties. That was being questioned in those appeals. We may also mention that the 96 Act has now been amended. Would anybody know what the amendment is? Absolutely right. Though it has been replaced by the word Supreme Court, it really makes no impact. The only difference is that earlier the judges would hear it sitting singly. Now it is for the court to sit it in 2 benches of 2, 3 or 5 as the case may be. So that's the only real difference. Otherwise, on the substantive propositions in SBP as laid down by Justice P.K. Balasubramaniam, who gave a view for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 judges in the majority view, that remains good law and that's important. And Konkan Railway was overruled in the sense of no notice be given. Justice Thakur, of course, had dissented with that decision. It's a interesting dissent. Please, in all these cases, don't just read the majority. Who knows? He may ask you in the dissent. Who knows? We've got a lot more cases and I'd like to wind up in an hour's time, so that because I'm told that when I used to teach that it's about 15 minutes is how long people want to concentrate. After a whole day of court in the summer, nobody's going to concentrate more than that. Now, the next case is also a very important case, which is on facets of judicial review and the amending part of the Constitution. You must have heard of Minerva Mills 1980, right? Now, Minerva Mills is an important decision because the question was whether Section 4 and 55 of the 42nd Amendment transgress the limitation on Parliament's power to amend the Constitution. There is also a challenge to a legislation, the Sikh Textile Undertakings Nationalisation Act, and the court gave a detailed decision. The majority is initially 5 judges, Justice Chandrachud's majority view, and they looked at it in the context again of Keshwanand Bharti, a decision which only 5 of you have read in this way. And I'm excluding myself. Mr. Patil, but I don't know. And when SCC brought out, I don't know if you recall, when SCC brought out Keshwanand Bharti, there was a separate yellow colored volume. There was one volume, complete separate yellow color. Here again, this is a very important decision and talks about the power of Parliament to amend, but says the power of court to exercise judicial review is also to be seen in light of Keshwanand Bharti. And I am not going to go into the details of the decision, but essentially to say that the court held that Section 4 of the 42nd Amendment Act is beyond the amending power of Parliament void, since it damages the basic or essential features of the Constitution and destroys its basic structure by total exclusion to any law on the ground that is inconsistent with or takes or breaches any of the rights. So that's the majority view. Justice Bhagwati partly dissented, and you will also like to see the findings of Justice Bhagwati as to why he dissented. The next issue will be about, the next case is about the powers of the governor, Shamsher Singh's case. Now Shamsher Singh's case is an interesting case. It talks about the power of the president and governor, how they exercise powers. Is it on aid and advice or direct? There are exceptions to this power of aid and advice. For example, when sanction for prosecution is sought, then the governor or the president doesn't act, but those statutory sanctions are distinct. Here we are considered with the scope of the constitutional provisions, and it's a 7-judge bench decision, because they were also deciding the correctness of Sardari Lal, which is the old 1971 decision, which talked about personal satisfaction. Chief Justice Ray delivers the decision. Justice Krishna Iyer concurs, and with an opinion for himself in Justice Bhagwati. And it was an interesting issue because there were two judicial officers, the word uses small judicial officers, challenging the termination of their probation by ministers on the recommendation of the High Court, and that is the issue that was raised before the court. Just give me. Kehoto Holuhan. Kehoto Holuhan versus Zachilu, 92 supplementary to SEC 651 Constitutional Bench. The one reason to read this judgment is it deals with the anti-defection law, which is becoming more and more important in our polity today. It is also important to read it because it's part of your course curriculum. The question was whether the 52nd Amendment, the changes made by the 52nd Amendment, the anti-defection law are valid or not, and the court upheld it except for paragraph 5, which was declared invalid for want of ratification in terms of 3368(2). It was upheld, and it's an interesting decision because the questions that were raised was, can you, by bringing in an anti-defection law, are you curbing the right of freedom of speech? Is it going to enhance free and fair elections? Is it a restriction on the freedom of members to vote as they please? So there were various issues that were raised regarding how defection is to be played out in practice, and therefore this is also a crucial and important question. Actually, all the cases are very important. Please also see the minority dissent given by Justice Verma and Justice L.M. Sharma. Both of them later became Chief Justice of India, so you will find it interesting. Now, the next case is very important for everybody knows who's been born and brought up in Delhi, at least people of that generation. The Hawkers case, Sodan Singh, was a very important case. It was the Hawkers case. Today when you walk on the streets of Delhi, you will find hawkers standing at pavement selling drinks, food, tobacco, other stuff. You even have people giving you haircuts on the street. Now, these are unlike the haircuts you get in court. But having said that, what is important is Sodan Singh is a very important case because it dealt with a number of issues. Article 1921 and the right to hawking public is one of those very important cases, what I will call the precursor of social justice cases, amongst the precursors of social justice cases from the Supreme Court. And here again, there was a majority view, there was Justice Kuldeep Singh view, and they said that it's a fundamental right. And they also interestingly looked at the international system where if you go abroad, you find that there are hawkers. Especially in Southeast Asia, you find that there are markets which are made totally of hawkers and they are being regulated. So the question was whether you can have that kind of hawking. But please, I don't want to, neither of us would want to know the quality of food you get on the streets of Bangkok. You would rather need to know the constitutional validity and the reasons in this decision. Although if you had the quality of food, I'm sure it must be good, but we're really not interested. We don't want to be told, looking at the paper, that the food is very good. I don't think that will help. Not as an answer. State of Maharashtra versus Sangaraj Damodar Rupavati, 2010. Have you seen that decision? It's a very important decision dealing with 95 and 96 of the CRPC, but it's also about the right of freedom of expression. It's an important case because there was a book written by Professor James Lane about Shivaji, and that was sought to be banned. It was a very hard-fought case, but 2 judges only, and it was an interesting exposition on the IPC, partly on the criminal law, procedural law, as also on the effect of the words and whether the ban was sustainable or not. So please see this decision merely because it's a 2-judge bench decision, as are many others, don't mean that they're not that relevant. Because if once they're included in your case curriculum, please don't play Russian roulette. Please read all the cases. Swami Shraddhanand. I don't know about you, but in my career I find that there are a lot of Swamis who land up in the criminal courts. Not that I'm complaining as a lawyer, but in any case, this is a gentleman in his state, so he should be better able to answer what the gentleman was up to. But on the legal issue, it's very important because it's a question of imprisonment. So, under the IPC, you have 2 sets of imprisonment for murder: life and death. Now, I tell you, it's unfortunate that this year we've not dealt with Nirbhaya because that's another issue of death sentence where it's been upheld. But Shraddhanand was an important case. There was a difference between 2 judges as to whether you can have a sentence of 20 years, 30 years, etc., or it has to be life, or it has to be death. The final conclusion in this case was that, look, we can give a sentence that life but no remission. Now that is also very important. It also gets considered later in V. Sriharan's case, but since you are fortunate not to have Sriharan in your course curriculum, a passing reference would be appreciated. But we are not going to test you on your knowledge of Sriharan. But that doesn't mean you will give wrong facts and wrong law if you're citing any add-on judgment. Please remember that. We are not negative people, but if you write something wrong, please don't expect positive marking. A lot of cases in this list, some of these cases in these lists are all related to the political class. Another case which we're going to deal with is Parliament privileges, Amrinder Singh versus Punjab Vidhan Sabha. It's an important decision, 2010-6 SCC 113. The question was of a resolution passed against Captain Amrinder Singh, who again happens to be Chief Minister of Punjab. That judgment didn't impact him any for the worse. And the question was that the Vidhan Sabha recorded that they had engaged in criminal misconduct. Writ petition was filed dismissed. High Court refused to grant stay. He came here. Issues were whether alleged misconduct warranted the exercise of legislative privileges under Article 194, whether Punjab Vidhan Sabha could take up the matter as a breach of privilege, an incident that had occurred during his previous term, and whether the impugned acts violated norms that should be respected in relation to sub judice matters. Now let me tell you today, what I am telling you is just a surface touch on the cases. You can't say that in the examination you said this, so we only repeated this and therefore we should get full marks. This is only to give you a flavor of the cases. The analysis, the understanding has to be your own, based on your reading of the judgment. Who knows? We may both read the judgments wrong today, and later on, after reading your answers, we will be corrected. And who also knows that we will be correcting your answers may not. So that's something to be seen. Article 14 and 21 and rights of tribal. My old classmate from school, Nandi Sundar, has been keeping this court very busy. Even yesterday or day before, she was out protesting. She was part of the protest outside the court. Nandini Sundar was concerned with the state of Chhattisgarh. Again, a two-judge bench decision, Justice Reddy and Justice Nijjar. Why is it important? It was what happened was in the state of Chhattisgarh. I happened to appear in this case, by the way, for the CBI. In the state of Chhattisgarh, you had a force which was set up called the Salva Judam. This was a paramilitary force really set up ostensibly to help the tribals combat the Maoists. And in that case, the court had to examine whether this force was legitimate or not. The battle was raging on various sides. Yes. It's in your list, Chief.
Yeah, so the citation, I think the citation you have been given is not the final judgment. I think, I don't know, I'm not sure.
Yeah. Have you got that list?
It's 2011-13 SEC 46 version 2.
Yeah, that's the one.
Or it's 7 SEC 547.
No, it's 46. This is the one. It's 46. 2011-13 SEC 46 of 18 January 2011. You just have a look at it. Has anybody got it? You're hiding behind the pillar.
There's no space.
There is space if you want to come up front, young man. You can't come and do a... So, Salva Judam comprised of people like this young man who would hit and run. And since it was a guerrilla force like this young man, they were very adept at hiding behind pillars, bushes and trees. Now that your senior has become a designated senior, you better clear this exam this year. You can't miss it out. All that practice has to go to someone. Just check it out.
Yes, sir.
But this is the one, 2011-13 SEC 46. Correct me, that's the one in the list, right? Now, I must tell you, I have already told you that a lot of these orders are, some of the judgments in your list may not be the final decision. And frankly, we will test you on the judgments which are part of your course curriculum, because we are not in a position to re-notify it. You don't have, there's a paucity of time, so we won't be unfair. But it would always be helpful that if there is an order which is the reference of your question and we are asking for the complete answer, you must give the essence of the answer. You can't just say, you've only given us a 2-page or 10-page, 4-page interim order and the final conclusion we're not going to tell you. Having said that, we would not test you on the facts of the complete final case, but that conclusion is something which enhances your answer. Considering that's the way it happens in court also, isn't it? Menaka Gandhi. At a very surface level, Menaka Gandhi's case is about the Passports Act, but that's not the only part of the case. There are two parts of the case. One is on the concept of procedure established by law and the interrelationship between the fundamental rights in 14, 19, 21 and whether the right to travel abroad is included in Article 21. There are 6 phones you'll have to pick. There's one more. Silent picker, DJ please.
Right.
When all of you go for movies, you make sure your phones are on silent, but not for the lecture. Now, Menaka Gandhi is a very important case. 4 separate opinions, majority written by Justice Bhagwati, and the others wrote, some wrote separate but concurring opinions. It's a very crucial decision and a development in relation to chapter part 3 of the Constitution, the Fundamental Rights chapter, and therefore you must examine it from not just the peripheral aspect of the Passport Act, which was the underlying issue. S.R. Bomai deals with proclamation of presidential rule and emergency in states. Emergency, it's a very important, crucial decision of 9 judges. The majority view is Pandian, Samant, Kuldeep Singh, Jeevan Reddy Agarwal, and the issue was the extent of judicial review on a proclamation under Article 356. And what is to be seen is whether there was material, whether it was relevant, and it is not nullified, perverse, or irrational exercise of power. And if a prima facie case was made out, it was for the Union then to discharge the burden and show as to why and how the proclamation was justified on material. And then again and various sub-issues that Legislative Assembly can't be dissolved, Article 74(2) is not a bar to judicial scrutiny, claim for privilege was available, and so on and so forth. The issue also in this is about the role of governors in recommending such actions, and that's a very important issue because he, as the head of the executive, is to honestly and fairly give the position, and that a situation has arisen where the constitutional machinery has failed and the state functions can't be carried on, and that is the reason you need to act under Article 356. And as said earlier, 374 is not a restriction on it. It's a longish decision, but I must also tell you, it is also being looked at in Puttaswamy, in case Puttaswamy 2019-1 SCC. It's been considered there. I will not tell you whether it's been followed or not, that's for you to look at.
Can you please read that?
It's been looked at in case Puttaswamy. You know that judgment, Puttaswamy? There are 2 of them, 9 and 5. Figure out which one has been dealt with. D.K. Basu. Very important PIL case, issue of right to life vis-a-vis arrest of an accused person, rights guaranteed under Article 21. Now here the Supreme Court comes out with a number of guidelines and then gives you the remedy for those guidelines. It's an important issue. Those guidelines are concerned, and court gave various requirements to be followed in all cases of arrest, detention. It is a slight departure from some of the principles of guidelines or of Nandini Satpathi's case. It then gets followed in Z versus State of Bihar, which is 2018, 11 SCC 572, and in Rini Johar 2016, where compensation was granted. The next decision, and that was, no, that you will have to check now. It gets followed, I said, in Z versus State of Bihar, and again in Rini Johar 2016. Look, when I tell you it gets followed, this is my understanding. There's been followed, maybe followed in 20 other cases. That homework somebody else has to do. You must remember, senior counsel only say what they are told to say. You will have to tell us your understanding, and then we will tell you what our marks are going to be. RTI. There is a lot of debate about the RTI Act, and that matter has come up again and again. One of the prominent decisions is CBSE versus Aditya Bandyopadhyay, 2011, 8 SCC, 2 judges. Question was whether you can have the evaluated answer book or not. We know that you can have them because every year when the AOR exam takes place, everybody moves in RTI and gets copies of their answer books complaining about the examiners. So you should remember, just as you will need to know this judgment, we know this judgment, so we will be very careful. Now, under the CBSE bylaws, inspection was not permitted, but under RTI, they said it's an overriding effect, you can get it. They talked about the concept of fiduciary relationship, which is an exemption from disclosure under 81E. And it's also very important because it says that, you can't get generation of information. Supposing I ask an RTI, I can't ask the department to analyze information the way I want it. They can only give what is available. They can't start creating analysis because somebody makes a request under RTI. It's an important decision followed in our Public Service Commission in 2012-13 SCC page 16. Article 20 comes after Article 19 for 21. Selvi's case is important. Selvi's case is important because amongst the things that were being tested were so-called scientific tests such as polygraph, which is otherwise called lie detector. I've often thought I will install such a machine. Since I practice in the field of criminal law, it's a very important machine. You need narco analysis when people come and give you all kinds of stories, so you need to verify. So it's a must for most people, most lawyers' offices. Narco analysis, or when my juniors say they were caught in traffic, then I think that's the time one needs the machine. Brain electrical activation profile, which is called brain mapping. Narco analysis, this is not smoking something, but analysis, but questions asked under the influence of certain serums and certain medication. So please don't think, when you read this carefully, don't think it's marijuana is being made legal in this country. It's not, unfortunately. Now, this is an important case because it dealt with the issues regarding the scope of Article 20 and whether these tests can or cannot be administered, the efficacy and the scientific justification behind these tests, whether they violate the standard of substantive due process, whether it's cruel, inhuman and degrading treatment, whether it's justified in terms of the right of fair trial, and whether the information gleaned is testimonial in character. So these are important decisions, and the question is also now whether it will be a breach of privacy. After Puttaswamy, where privacy has been recognized as a right. So these issues are going to be considered. They've been considered partly in Puttaswamy, partly some of these issues have yet to be considered. I'll leave it at that. We have to figure out whether they've been considered or not. State of West Bengal versus Committee for Protection of Democratic Rights, West Bengal 2010-3 SCC 571. Very good decision. I wish it had a smaller title. It's very complicated, the title. Two issues. Article 226. Can you transfer investigation to the CBI or any specialized agency? Do the restrictions in the statute, such as the DSP Act, apply? Does the court have inherent part to do it? Because in the state, under list 2, police is the state subject and the center can't intervene. But this is an important decision. It is also an important decision from the point of view of the right to a free and fair investigation. It's a longish decision with 71 paragraphs. Justice D.K. Jain's decision, 5 judges. I'm not going to go into details, but you want to see this decision and examine it, both in terms of the constitutional principles and the entries to the list. Vishakha, very important decision for two reasons. It's one of the early decisions which looked into international treaties and said, look, we have to examine these to see where there is an absence of domestic law, but we are signatories to the treaties. What can we do about it? Now, there was no legislative framework. So the court came out with Vishakha guidelines and said that you can give interim guidelines pending the legislation. It's a different matter that it took a very, very, very long time for the legislation to come. It came, Vishakha was a 97 decision. The legislation came in 2013. Indian stretchable tie. Antule and Rupa Hura. Antule was a case where at one stage the Supreme Court said this matter needs to be tried before the High Court. It was a pending case, allegation of corruption against a former Chief Minister of Maharashtra, and the issue was really the transfer was made to the High Court because they felt there should be a judge in the High Court trying the matter. When the matter came up before the Supreme Court at a later stage, they said you can't do it because there is a statute. What is the statute called? The Prevention of Corruption. That statute says there has to be a special court. You can't do something which is contrary to legislation. They recalled the order, set things right. What you must also see is that this principle goes further, and finally in the Rupa Hura case 2002, we evolved what is known as curative jurisdiction. Curative jurisdiction takes its principle from in 1870s, 1860s, Roger versus Count d'Escomte, if I remember right the judgment, 1860s English decision, Comptoir d'Escomte, I forget that case, you'll find it there. It's an important decision. Please remember that there are principles of curative. Last year, there was a question on curative in that other paper, in practice and procedure. I had to mark it, and I know I had a lot of issues because it's a fascinating decision for the facets of how it has evolved a new jurisdiction and the contours of that jurisdiction and the procedural aspects. So something to be seen both in these two cases. Then we have the appointment of judges cases. Now there are 4 of them. I think 2 are in your list, right?
Yes.
Sorry?
Yes. Second judge is SP Gupta as well as third judge.
Yeah, so there's SP Gupta is there, first judges, Skora is there, 93, and special reference is there,
Yes, sir.
but we don't have NJAC.
No.
What will you really need to see the evolution of law as to why and how the first judges came about, the concept of consultation versus concurrence, supremacy of the judiciary over the executive in the appointment of judges, and then the origins of why SP Gupta's case came up in the first context of this court. Secondly, then Skora, and then finally the reference, which is really an acceptance of the fact that the judges have supremacy, but the evolution of the collegium system and how it operates and how it ought to operate. As my learned friend says, you see a complete shift in the appointment of judges, a shift of power from one institution, the executive, to the judiciary, and how that occurred over a period of time. Historical reasons, of course, will go back to the super sessions of the 1970s, which will find mention in these cases, but the consequence has been the evolution of the collegium system, which after NJAC is here to stay. I'm not going to go into the details of this case because now we have time is short and we have another 5-7 matters cases to go through. Society for Unaided Private Schools, which is on the Right to Education Act, Article 21. It's an interesting view. Justice Kapadia gives a majority. It's a 3-judge bench decision. Radhakrishnan dissents. The issue was Article 21, education being the right to life, Article 21A on free and compulsory education and the legislation and whether it was legally justified, its interaction with aided and unaided minority institutions and to the extent it can be applied to such institutions. There is also very interesting dissent relying on PMA Pai and PA Namdar by Justice Radhakrishnan. You may also want to read that. Do you have 4G on your phones? Not 5G. But we are stuck with a 2G case. So you will have to deal with the offshoot and the consequence of the 2G decision in the CPIL case 2012 3 SCC 104. This is the case regarding this is that judgment where they struck down the telecom licenses. It's an important decision because it also shows to the extent the court is intervening in policy decisions and the implementation of the policy of telecom licenses. It's a different matter. Ultimately, the criminal court did not find the evidence adequate to convict, though the licenses in the civil law domain got cancelled, but that can be a number of reasons, including the proof beyond reasonable doubt. So there are three issues that are raised for determination. Justice Singhvi and Justice Ganguly answer it, and they talk about one important concept which will lead us to our next decision: natural resources. So spectrum is a natural resource, and therefore the state owns it, and therefore its distribution must be concomitant with constitutional principles of allocation of natural resources. And this then led to an interesting issue: the presidential reference. Now, the presidential reference does not look at the 2G decision. They said, they make it very clear that we are not going to review the 2G decision, but we are looking for a way forward. Is it that allocation of natural resources can only be through auction? That is one of the issues in the natural resources case, but I would recommend that you look at it a little deeply because it says a lot more. Please examine it in some depth. There was also an issue regarding maintainability of the presidential reference. You may want to see that. And the scope of policies, that's another aspect. Please look at it. How many people have Vodafone in this room? Sorry, everybody has Vodafone in this room. You all have to deal with the Vodafone decision. You can't, because that's part of your course curriculum, so you can't help it. Essentially a case of taxation, corporate structures, Justice Kapadia's view, where he takes a view on taxation versus corporate structures. There's a view also taken by the third judge, who was Radhakrishnan, who has his own view. He concurs with the majority view. I would recommend you look at it. It's an interesting concept, an interesting, well-written decision. I would recommend you look at every decision. Don't just look at the short ones. And please, don't assume that because I'm one of the people sitting here that there are going to be more criminal law questions. Don't remain under that. God knows who said the paper. Zahira Sheikh, Best Bakery. Issues of fair trial, protection of witnesses, conduct of a prosecutor, what is desired of a prosecutor and how he conducted, and the acquittal of the accused, and whether 91, 311, 391 parts could be done, the role of a trial court while conducting a trial. These were some of the myriad issues that this case dealt with, and eventually they began the trials afresh. After this, we'll come to the consequence of this was because there was professional negligence. So we can't complete the subject today without looking at the professional negligence, medical negligence case, which is Ganguly versus Mukherjee, Malik Kumar Ganguly versus Sukumar Mukherjee, which looked at the issues of criminal negligence, warranting conviction under 304, AIPC, which was rash and negligent act leading to death, and deficiency of services in which compensation should be granted under consumer law. It's a comprehensive decision dealing with both these aspects, a decision to be seen as also on the amount of compensation, the principles of compensation. Since we all live in Delhi, we must have no concern about the environment, but you will have to read the case of Vellore Citizens Forum, which is 96.5 SCC 647. There's a lot of evolution of the law regarding this in a number of MC Mehta and other decisions, but it's an important case which deals with the principles of environment, precautionary principle, polluter pays principle, sustainable development, and so on and so forth. You want to see that. There is another old decision on Muslim law and fundamental rights, which is Daniel Latifi's case. Mr. Latifi was a lawyer here. This looked at the Shah Banu case, and the issue was regarding interpretation of 127(3)(b) of the CRPC, which is in relation to compensation to women. Subsequently, this decision has been followed even in Shabana Banu versus Imran Khan in 2009. I'm sure it's been considered later. You may want to see it. It's been followed time and again. Then we have DS Nakara. This is not a Nakara decision. It's an important decision. It's a constitutional bench decision. You must consider it. It is in the context of, well, on a peripheral level, pension, goals of pension, retroactivity, but it also looks at Article 14 and class legislation and classification. So you must examine it from the constitutional standpoint.
That's done, is it?
The last decision of today is going to be Pradeep Kumar Biswas, Article 12 state. Lot of development in this case. This is a very crucial, important decision. It's in the context of CSIR, whether it's a state or not. And we're looking at reversing the decision of Savajit Tiwari, which had held the field for about 25 years. So that is a summary of the cases, really, just to give you a flavor of what we believe are our thought processes. In the summer vacation, our thought processes may change. But that's, thank you very much. Any questions? Mr. Patil, will say something? Why?
I think it's 5 o'clock. I'll just speak about the practical aspect about it. Professor has completed now. The practical aspect, because you are looking at it from the point of view of exam, your exam. Your writing has to be crisp. Your writing has to be clear. Believe me, in the last year's correction, some of the examiners have given 0 because they felt they couldn't read it for the entire paper, not one question. So I'm just giving a heads up. Please write clearly. It takes a lot of time to correct. If you want us to understand and mark you well, please make an effort to write a little more legibly. And what's important is not verbose writing, 5-10 pages of one answer. If you are able to bring out the point, the essence of it, that will fetch you marks. Even one sentence may fetch you 1 mark, and 5 sentences may fetch you half mark. So please make it a point to look at it from the point of view of what is that you are wanting to convey. And as Supreme Court practitioners, you will necessarily convey to the court in a very crisp manner. You don't get an amount of time to keep on saying what you want to say. Similarly, while writing, be clear, be precise. The other aspect is, you are looking at it only from the point of your exam. I would request you all not to read these leading cases from the point of your exam. I don't think you'll do too well if you just do that. You take a subject like reservation. If you see how this concept of reservation has been dealt by the Supreme Court in various judgments over a period of time, that is evolution of law on reservation. If you have a complete understanding of the subject, then your writing and the flow will automatically come. You can say that this is how it has evolved, and that's what we are looking for. When we test you on a point of reservation, if you look at the variety of cases that are there, they are dealing with the subjects which you as EORs would be handling in Supreme Court. What is 226 jurisdiction and the power, for example, of referring us for investigation to CBI. Those matters may come up to Supreme Court. Take another example of education. Why is the leading case of TMFI followed by others are given? They are given because the law has evolved. Why are they called leading cases? Conceptually, they have been dealt with. Therefore, please don't confine yourself to the list of cases that have been given. Look for complete evolution of law. They might have stopped at 2005, but it would help you not only in your exam but also in your practice to know the subject till date. And if you are called a Supreme Court practitioner, you should know various jurisdictions of Supreme Court. There is original jurisdiction, there is referential jurisdiction, there is appellate jurisdiction. So there are questions or case laws on those jurisdictions. That's why there is a reference from the President. What is the scope of that reference? What is it that the court can do? Because you may be an AOR for such a case. You need to understand that jurisdiction so that you are in a position to deal with that case when it comes to you. And believe me, we want to be very strict about passing an AOR exam. Because if you are certified as an AOR, you stand on a higher pedestal. We don't want an ordinary, it has been happening for some time, but we have been told that we want good AORs, credible AORs, and AORs of certain standing. They are expected to screen what's being filed and the way it's being filed, or what question of law is being framed. If you know your subject well, we are talking of education, we are talking of reservation, we are talking of criminal law, we are talking of service jurisprudence. There are also new emerging fields which perhaps may not be here. Some of them are there. You learn the subjects. You learn the subjects and you learn with reference to the case law, how the subjects have been dealt with by the judges. For example, reservation, Nagaraj perhaps is partly overruled. But there is Jarnail, how they have dealt with Nagaraj. It's a very, very interesting case. The way there is an interplay between the earlier decisions right from Indra Sawhney to Nagaraj to Jarnail. And even now some questions are at large. It happens that I have argued one of the matter and judgment is reserved, wherein still these elements are being debated. As a Supreme Court lawyer, you need to be up there on subject knowledge. You are like a solicitor passing a Bombay solicitor exam or a London solicitor exam. As an AOR, you should hold that pride of position. So my request is, please look at these leading cases as a learning curve to understand the subjects. Even if you are not writing an AOR exam, it's good to read these case laws. And to keep updating every vacation, year on year, which is otherwise very difficult to learn. So the professor has completed taking you through all the case laws which are there. But I have given from the perspective of practical side. One is the examination point of view, the other is the learning point of view for being a good AOR. I don't want to take too much time because it's 42 degrees and at 5:10. Thank you all. Wish you all the best. There are 5 questions that you need to answer out of 8. That's about 20 marks each. Do well. Don't expect any concessions in terms of marking, because we are also told by Mr. Nariman, who was the chairman of the committee, that leading question, this paper is the most important one because this tests your knowledge. So please put in extra effort, not only for exam but also for your own good. Thank you.
Just one more added point. There are 1 or 2 cases which I may not have touched, but please don't assume that they're being ignored because of paucity of time. Chandra Kumar and others.
Bangalore water supply.
Sorry?
Bangalore water supply.
Huh?
Bangalore water supply.
Bangalore, Chandra Kumar. There are 1 or 2 cases. Sorry?
Why is it not audible, sir?
I said there are a couple of cases such as Chandra Kumar or Bangalore water supply which I have not touched right now. They are part of my notes, but I thought that
No, in short, nothing is excluded
nothing is excluded. It's
other
all
than the
there.
4 cases.
So don't remain under this illusion of anything being left. There are number of matters. So that's all for today. Thank you very much. You take your leave.
Yeah. Thank you.